Welcome to another episode of the Train Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Today on the Train Studio, small aside, quick build. What I plan to do here in the next couple days, I know I talked about doing the tutorial with the groundwork and the tufts, realizing that on the Hex Tech terrain, I probably won't get there for a little bit because I'm going to be focusing on enhancing the buildings. So I thought I'd take a nice little aside here, nice Easter day or Easter weekend sort of break for you guys and get another little video series up in the honor of the patrons and wanting to serve exactly what you guys are asking for. So the local shop had just printed up some 3D printed items, and this was one of them that I saw on the shelf, and so I grabbed it, knowing that while super awesome and really, really cool, the base left something to be desired, and I thought the green really spoke to me about bringing in some earthy elements and really sort of accenting and highlighting this base. And I thought, hey, let's just do a little quick build. It's going to satisfy likely the request to incorporate tufts, etc. And I thought if we're going to do that, let's show how to bring multiple elements together. So what we're going to do in this build, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this as a sequential, so I'll bring you back after each step, sort of explain what I did. I probably won't film each of them. However, as always, with every video, if there's something that you want to see in depth and really a hyper focus on, I'm fine to do a short tutorial on each of those elements. It's really tough to know exactly what you guys want to hyper focus in on, and because of the length of the build and the amount of time that they take me each, you guys don't want to see the whole process typically. So let me work this one in stages, and if there's anything you want me to slow down, revisit, or video, I will definitely do that. It's very easy for me to do that sort of thing once I have direction from you guys. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using some DOS clay. We're going to build up the base a little bit just to create a little bit of undulation and give us a bit of topography to work with. Then we're going to be incorporating, of course, some gamer grass tufts, but I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to show you how to use the tufts, just a nice complementary color. So speaking a little bit about that, as well as I'm going to show you how to work with the laser cut plants. These are fantastic. If you guys have not checked out the range, it is incredible. Go check it out. There's so many options, way more than they started with, and they keep adding more great stuff. In the back, I have some scattered items from Gamer's Grass, so some of their different sort of alien sort of grass tufts, and then 2 types of flowers. So again, an item that is readily available. I just didn't have these in full packs because I've pulled them out since, but we're going to use those just as accent colors, so you can see really sticking with that sort of green teal look that's complementing these. A nice splash of yellow, which I'll talk about in a second, and then some purple just to bring in, again, with the other laser cut plant. I'm also going to be using some just sort of craft store / dollar store plants, and I'll show you briefly how to enhance them, kind of lose the plastic look and how to incorporate them. These are fantastic, by the way. It doesn't matter where you get them from. Don't hear dollar store and craft store and think, oh, not as cool as this, expensive miniature that I have. These actually can make really nice miniatures look even better, even though this item is nowhere near the cost that your print or your action figures, etc. might be. So don't let that fool you. And then we're going to be using some DOS clay, and that's going to be just the air-dried clay that's going to help us build up the base. You can do that with a number of things. I work with a lot of foam, so I thought, you know what, let's switch gears, show you guys how to work with this stuff here, or what I do with this stuff, and how it can kind of create a nice volume to your base. Being pretty rigid as well, and it's nice because you can actually then drill. The reason I'm using this one is I can then drill or poke holes in it so that I have a better receptacle for my plants versus the foam, which sometimes is a little bit difficult to relocate afterwards once you have sort of your acrylic base added on top. So this gives you a bit more of a rigid structure and prevents me from having to drill directly into the base for those parts that I want to build up. So we'll come back after step one. Step one is just going to be having this stuff down. What I'll probably do is have a bit of it down and then show you how to apply this as well. So we'll kind of add mini tutorials as we go. So you won't see every stage fully completed, but I'll probably pick stages up halfway or 75% of the way through the step so you can kind of see the element. I will hyper focus in on doing the grass tufts, and so that step there I will do fully for you so you guys can check it out. So I'm going to do this series for free. However, if you're a free member and want to help out the channel, consider joining one of the tiers. It'd be fantastic if you did so. It helped me out, makes future tutorials available to you, and then helps me keep making future tutorials. So appreciate that, guys. Catch you in the next step. Cheers. Welcome back, guys. So you can see here on the base, we have the DOS clay now laid down. You're going to see it's in various forms of drying. You can tell it's getting dry because it ends up getting this very, very light color. It also gets harder, obviously, so that's a pretty indicative indicator. A couple things I want to point out. There's this cavity right here. I actually have a rock that we're going to add to this, and I'll show you how to do the pigments and powders for this. When I was doing the base, I actually built it with the rock right in the spot, so you're going to see that's going to slide right back in there ever so gently. But what I want to do while it's drying is I'm actually going to pull the rock out, one, so that I can work on it separate from the piece. A little bit of clay just stuck there. And then two, because I want to expose as much air as I can to this material here. So a couple things about this before I talk about the material itself. I made a cavity in the front as well. I figured, hey, let's do a puddle just to kind of tie in all the basing elements in case you guys have not seen how to kind of work with some products. And I'm going to kind of make it really simple. I'm not going to do like 2 parts and color mixing, etc., etc. I'm probably going to use some AK puddle for this, just so if you guys aren't familiar with that product, you can check that out. I'm going to use some straight up pigments, do a little bit of leopard spotting on this as well, just kind of tie that technique in. So really trying to bring as many things as I can together. Now, a couple things with this DOS clay is that when it dries, it's going to have a little bit of shrinkage. So what I did is I beveled the edge kind of in. So instead of making really hard edges, I tried to bevel it. Now, another thing with this as well is I didn't put any adhesive down or anything on the base. So when I'm working with this, as it starts to dry, I may get a little cracking or lifting around the edges, as well as around this little like water feature. You can see that I purposely made this go right down to the plastic or to the PLA. And the reason being is I want to, if I have any exposure there, I'm going to come in with some glue anyway and give this a little bit of a bottom layer, so that I can make sure I get a really strong seal there, make sure I don't have any leaking with the resin afterwards. Likewise with the rock, I want to make sure as I'm exposing as much as possible. Now, if you get any lift around the edge, which you typically will if you're just straight applying it like I am, that's perfectly fine. What I do with that is I use that edge. I actually try to tease up as much as possible. I lay down in some Weld Bond or some resin glue. I have some Wolverine resin glue, which is really, really nice. And another AK product, by the way, and I'll link all the stuff as I use it, as I typically do on the side. And then what we'll do is we'll just feed that underneath and then just re-adhere, just softly apply pressure to the base, and then that will give us a really strong solidification of that. So I do this because this is almost like a dry fit, if you will, pun intended, is you're putting down the clay to give the mold, to give the impression that you want. And then what you want to do is as it delaminates a little bit, because there's nothing really adhering it, you know that you actually have a strong surface dry on the bottom as well. So it's not a negative that you have that. I'm going to do this with the basing tutorial for my Flames of War as well. So if you're interested, I'll show you how to use the rollers. That's why I sent you the rollers. So you guys can try out this stuff on your own, and it works really, really nicely with this clay. Now, I want to talk about the clay itself. This is the stuff here. I'm using the stone color. I think it comes in a various other types. I usually just buy the stone because I like the gray. However, when you get it, it's quite malleable and soft. It's kind of look like a big sort of nougat candy bar, if you will. And I'm just going to pull out some here. It will get on your fingers. It will stain or make some messes on your surfaces. So if you're doing that, make sure you either wipe it down right away or work on something that you don't care if it gets ruined. It is very malleable, really easy pressure. It will take textures as well. Matter of fact, I might as well test out 2 of the rollers right now. So right here, if I just flatten it out, and this is what I did with the surface here, I sort of got some, leveled pieces. I used one of my sculpting tools. So this one here, I have a pointy end, so I can sort of, I'll probably put it on camera, shove that and pinch it right down to the ground. Then I have this rounded end here, and that's how I just went in and kind of gave this texture here. I also used a rock to kind of give this landscape this sort of flowy landscape. I wanted something kind of like a little bit undulated and a little bit unique, not something, I'm not going to use any gravels or ballast or anything like that. I'm just going to use the actual DOS clay so you guys can see what that looks like. So any of the exposed sections we'll just paint up, and then whatever we don't cover over, we'll kind of have this sort of flowy landscape, if you will. And I think it looks pretty sharp. So yeah, so with the DOS clay, and again, just working a little bit more in the camera here so you guys can see, The rollers that I'm sending out really work nicely. You can just roll them along your surface. So let me just do that really briefly. There we go. Bring that up to the camera. And you can see how cool of a rock texture that is. Really, really sharp. The best thing about this clay is if you don't like what you did, just squish it up. Now, it's got a decent amount of working time, especially if you are consistently molding it. If you leave it to dry too long, or if you leave little flecks out, like I'm just going to leave a little fleck out while we're talking, it will start to dry, and again, you'll get that that lighter colors start to appear. I would advise not mixing in sort of semi-dry or dry stuff in with your wet stuff. It's going to create problems. It's going to create a delamination for sure. And it's going to give you inconsistent flow with your mold or with whatever you're making in there. You're going to have weird cracks and crevices where you didn't intend it to have any. Let's grab another one. This is another one I'm sending out here. This is kind of a shingly one. So if you guys are doing any roofs, etc., and there you go, you can have that nice shingle look. And then if you guys were putting this on to something later, you know, cut yourself out a nice square of this, and then I don't have a knife on me, but let's just say you did, and then later on you're like, I need a little roof section. There you go. You cut your clay in nice smooth lines. And then you can go ahead and apply that to your building or whatever you're working on. So again, random rollers being sent out to tier 1, tier 2, you're going to get 2, tier 1, 1, and tier 3, 3 random rollers. I don't have a third one in my head, otherwise you'd know. And I'll just put them in there. If you like these guys and you want me to kind of continue, I can throw these in at another time as well. This is basically straight trade. These are more than your pledge for the month, but that's okay. This is me paying you guys back. But if you're on the free tier and you want to come and help support, this is the type of stuff that you get that I send out. And occasionally, you know, as the months build up, you get a freebie, and it's basically like a 1-month free subscription plus some content kind of thing. So that's kind of how I've been doing things, and hopefully that is working out for the folks who have been here. So when I pick up that dry piece right here, I just wanted to bring it up. You can already see that it's got some color and it's starting to lighten up. So that's probably enough time for me to pick that piece up. So like, again, you know, 2-3 minutes kind of, if it's out of your main mass, that's okay. Anything more than that, you're going to start to get this drying right here. Now, keep in mind, this dry right here doesn't mean that it's not manipulative. It doesn't mean that you can't put an impression in there. And I say that for 2 reasons. One, because you want to be careful that you're not like pushing fingerprints, etc., in here when it is setting up, because maybe you don't want fingerprints in your build. Additionally, you got to make sure that everything dries all the way through. So we're going to probably leave this a good, you know, 8 to 10 hours before I can probably come back and do much with this at all. So in that time, what we are going to do is I won't hesitate too much. I actually did some panel lining on this as well, or edge highlighting. So I just came in and just did a little teeny bit with the AK marker and just lined out some edges. I'm trying not to change the print too much because that's how it was printed. So I did just want to add a little bit of a highlight to that, again, just to show people what they can kind of do with their prints to, you know, really simple steps to accent them a little bit more. But I will work on the rock. We might as well get that prepped up. And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe how we're going to go ahead and approach the base, what we want to tie in. And I'm really excited to show you guys how to work with these. I worked with these on the Hobbit project a ton, but I don't know if I really focused in on the product itself. So might as well show you guys how it works, how cool it is, and how much accent you can add with just a quick splash of color. Again, a little bit of teasing out with the pliers. Scratch that with tweezers, and then just put them onto your base. It'll look really fantastic. It doesn't matter the scale. They'll really work, and you can kind of add and manipulate them together to make different plants. So even though they're, you know, have some uniform shapes, how you put them together in configuration is just as important as the color choices that you make. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, and then accenting, and then hopefully, Travis, that helps you out with some of my thought process that goes into the basics. So stay tuned, guys. More parts to come. I'm on the video train. Let's go.